Sin City. Saturday night. Fight night. Any given weekend, this place is the entertainment capital of the world. When combat sports shines brightest on the Las Vegas Strip. Boxing and mixed martial arts need some new voices. And Franchise Sports Media got them for you. Join Kalani Lua and Griff and Kemp each week as they bring you news and hot takes from inside the octagon and the ring. Get your popcorn ready. It's showtime. FSM's main event starts right now.
Welcome back to another episode of The Main Event right here on Franchise Sports Media. We are your absolute gorgeous, beautiful, hard-working hosts, Griff and Kemp and
Kalani Lua.
Yes, sir, Kalani Lua. We are here a couple days after UFC 287 in Miami.
Down there in South Beach, and man, oh man, was it a showing indeed. South Beach, Miami, 305 was in the house. Great showing, by the way. Dana White even said, we got to come back here more often, which would be awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, this year, with the UFC's on fire.
Ring the alarms. Ring the alarms. Firemen need to come through because, man, oh man, it has been awesome to see the great matchups that were announced. Pretty much for the most part, all live up to the hype. Regardless of who wins and loses, the hype behind the big fights have all been there. They've all delivered so far.
Absolutely, every single one. And I was honestly worried leading into this one that maybe it would kind of get lost in the weeds of all the great cards and great fights we've already seen. I mean, how do you top like a John Jones or a champion versus champion fight, or I'm not even going to say the Glover and Jamal Hill fight at the beginning of the year. That one was amazing as well.
No, that was a good one. That's why I said, regardless of who's won and lost, all the big fights, like the main events, most of the co-main events, they've all delivered to some degree of like, hey, this was worth it.
Absolutely.
This was worth it. Maybe the full cards, some of the fights were like, we were missing a little something. But so far, the main events, the title fights, they've all gone down. And boy, oh boy, this was no different.
No, not at all. In fact, let's just get into it, man. Let's get into it. I want to ask your opinion right off the bat. UFC 287 goes down. We have the main event. Israel Adesanya comes back to face his long, bitter rival in Alex Pereira, the middleweight champion. Fight goes down. Short one, shorter than we thought it was going to be, but Israel Adesanya gets it done in the second round via TKO.
That was a knockout, brother.
That was knockout. That was straight. There was no technical.
That was nice. That was his Boba Yaga, and you actually called it. You said a third round knockout in the second, close to it. I said decision. But Izzy came out in a way that we really wanted to see him come out in previous matchups. Yo Romero, Marlon Vittori, aggressive. We know how good you are of a striker, and we know how technical you are, how accurate you are, but we want to see that aggression. Now, we do understand you don't want to go out there and just throw caution to the wind and just say, forget about it. But in this one, he was so motivated. He was so determined to prove, I'm actually better than this guy. Remember the first fight, he goes out there against Alex Pereira. Into the first round, almost knocked him out then. But literally, the bell saved him. 5 more seconds, Griff. That's over. It's all she wrote. But nonetheless, it is what it is. He comes back in this one, and he's determined. Now, some people, George St. Pierre most famously was saying how, I don't know if Izzy wants to go in there so emotional. And yeah, that can wreck you. But for some fighters, they thrive off of that. And we've seen it. Some guys, when they come out to the ring, they got that 1,000-yard stare in their eyes. They're huffing and puffing. Other guys, they coming in dancing. They coming in loose. Anderson Silva used to come in praying 27 times before he got there. Oh, we must stop and pray. And nothing wrong with that. But everyone has their own way of getting up, of how they go out there. Out of it, shakes everyone's hand.
Yes.
Then other guys are like, no, I'm going to kill you. Izzy came out there determined and said, this is my night. Terrific showing by him. The stand-up department we knew was going to be excellent from these guys. When Pereira tried to turn it on, Izzy was there to meet him almost every step of the way. End of the second round, call him with the right, put him down. That's all she wrote. And new UFC middleweight champion.
Man. I loved, obviously, the whole storyline of this rivalry between Pereira and Adesanya. I think all combat sports fans, it's hard not to become a fan of this. And then especially, like, the kind of looking at their entire history together. just seeing what Izzy had to endure, what he had to endure when the man was beating him, when he beat him in kickboxing. And something I learned yesterday, I guess they started off by training together. I think that was right, but they were training partners in the beginning. Then they faced off the 2 times that Pierre got the win. Then Izzy Adesanya obviously comes to the UFC, has this historic career,
one of the best.
Puts his name in there as like one of the best fighters the UFC's ever seen. Middleweight. I was so close after that fight, saying he's got it, he's done it, he's surpassed Anderson Silva. That's still to be seen. I'm not ready to officially make that claim yet, but oh my goodness, you have to admit it's getting close, razor thin, especially if Izzy continues on a couple more fights and continue to just wipe out that entire division, which
we gonna get into that.
We're gonna get into that
after we talk about the fight.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, so I mean, just everything he's had to endure with this rivalry just made it that much more special when he finally did hit him across the dome with that nasty haymaker. And there's even like a debate, and I kind of want to see what you think. I mean, some people, me included, initially I thought in that sequence he was getting beat up. It was a repeat of what was happening last fight. Alex Pierre was just so much. He was such a presence. He's so long. He's a big dude. Big as hell.
Like you taking on middle schools. That's a big dude.
Exactly. And like, it looked like when he was hitting him against the fence, it was just Izzy. That punch was just kind of like a spur of the moment, a Hail Mary. But then after the fight, Adesanya even said like this, no, you guys don't understand setup. That was me setting up. And looking back now, it kind of looked like that too. I can see that too, because right when he hit him with the leg kick, Izzy Adesanya automatically just puts his hands up. Just like that, and the punch wasn't even being thrown. And just that way he blocked initially, that kind of made me think, okay, maybe that was a trap, because it did seem like he was inviting him in. Come hit me, come use that goddamn, the Powhatan hands you got, and see, and finish me off. But then he got him in the click hit. I mean, what did you think? What did you see?
Well, it definitely was one of those where Izzy likes to set traps. Now, he's done this with other fighters. Some bite, some don't. And after his Joe Romero fight, he was talking about how, look, Joe hits very hard. That's a very tough individual. So I don't want to get careless, but I was trying to set traps. He just didn't go for them. So when we see it, we're like, well, what are you talking about? This was a perfect example. And like you alluded to, I saw this on Luke Thomas's show, shout out to LT right there. But if you look at any of the replays, you notice that even when he's up against the cage blocking, he's looking at Pereira the whole time when he's throwing strikes and he's trying to duck him. And in boxing, a lot of times, I see this from the boxers, and oftentimes you say, if you're just watching it as it's going on live, hey, why isn't the ref stepping in, possibly stopping it? Oh, he's hurting him. No, a lot of times when you see the guys and they're looking at their opponent and they're moving around, you hit my arms, you hit my shoulders, yeah, maybe 1 or 2 slipped in, but I'm not really taking any damage. But what I'm trying to do is, and Pereira did this, and it's funny because you brought up the fact that he channeled his inner Chuck Liddell, his Iceman, with the mohawk and the goatee. Something Iceman used to do that ended up catching up to him when he fought Rashad Evans.
Yeah.
He drops his hands. He throws punches, and when he pulls them back, he drops his hands. And with against Evans, Liddell, he was throwing the right, but the left was down, hence why he was able to get hit. Pereira, when he was throwing strikes, his hands were coming back low. Izzy was waiting for that opening, because once he saw that right hand come, and it went back, bam! And you call it like, in boxing, I believe it's called like a pull punch. I'm gonna pull you in, get you to throw it, and then right before you get your hand back, I'm gonna come over and counter with it. And Izzy was able to do that very beautifully. And then you also had to think too, I thought this little nugget, I really didn't see a lot of people mentioning this, but given how much weight Pereira cuts, and again, we'll talk about the future in a bit, but given how much weight he cuts, you also got to think that drains a lot of your energy to where you may be suspect to get knocked out from shots that don't look the most devastating. Now, granted, this was a little high on the head, up above the ear area, and we know how that does the Abdullah Oblongata.
I know there's some term for it. They said it many times.
I learned that from Chris Tucker and Money Talks. If it's not it, hey, I'm rolling with it anyways. Yeah. But you hit that nerve, move, can't move, I'm done. Damn. So, to me, I can see where people feel like, oh, it's just a lucky punch. But if you watch it and you've seen Izzy's fight, there's not much about him that's luck. A lot of it is set up, and he's planning something. If you participate and come in, he can make you pay. This time, he did.
Absolutely. And then, before we start talking about what's next for both guys in the future, we have to discuss that phenomenal sequence of a celebration the second Powhatan's body hit the ground. Those 3 dirty arrows. those dirty arrows, the gestures to Pierre's child, what he said on the mic.
Looking for him. He walked around. Where you at? There you go.
I believe he said that fight was 7 years ago, where his kid went in the ring and hit himself with the head of a water bottle and fell down mocking Izzy.
Petty.
He said he looked for that kid for 7 years.
Think about it. Dude, and I know this was quick for a lot of people to say, this is like the origin story of a supervillain, right?
This is an anime. This is an anime literally out unfolding in front of us.
I mean, you had to go total nerd to say anime. You know, it's good to be comic book stuff or superhero stuff, but you had to go anime with it. Okay. But nonetheless, Izzy's an anime guy, so you know what? My apologies, of course. But that was super awesome. I loved it too. I loved it. We always talk about how fighters should show personality. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say sometimes in the heat of the moment, I'm not going to hold too much against you. Your adrenaline's pumping, you're psyched. This has been 7 years in the making. You've been waiting to do this to this guy. And we said it beforehand. Izzy probably at times felt, I could beat this dude. In those kickboxing matches, I was winning. My UFC battle. Good Lord. I was winning. I just got caught.
Right.
So in his mind, he's thinking, this son of a gun, I could beat this dude. I just have to avoid his big shot. If I do, I can beat him. He finally did. And you know what? Good for him. That little kid wants to get in the ring and then mock him. Who other kids does that? I've been watching UFC since UFC 1. I've been watching boxing a long time. I've never seen someone's kid hop in the ring and mock the opponent that lost.
Nah. I mean, kickboxing is a whole different world. But at the same time, do you praise attacking a 12-year-old, mentally attacking a 12-year-old? Usually I'd say no. But in this situation right here, Israel Adesanya is who he is. He's been the man who, ever since the Brunson fight, has been, and even probably prior to that, he's been getting nonstop mess talked about him online. You're corny. You're a boring fighter. You're a safe fighter. You're this. You're that. People, the second Pierre came around and won that belt, that was like his third or fourth fight in the UFC. All of a sudden, they're the biggest Pierre fans. No, you're not. You're the biggest Izzy Adesanya hater around. That's what it was. So then when he finally gets that win and he puts just arrows into the man's body and finds his kid, I'm all for it, because that's what makes Israel Adesanya who he is. He's unapologetic, he's unfiltered, and he came back from the biggest challenge of his career to make a statement, which was, I am not just a guy who's gonna, my legacy is not just a little blip of the UFC. My legacy will be forever entwined with the brand of the UFC, because my career is legendary.
What do we remember more are the actions that are different than the norm. Nobody remembers a post-fight interview where you say, well, whatever UFC wants to give me, I'm ready to fight. No, but we remember the call-outs. We remember the antics. Say what you will about it. It is what it is. Okay? Look, just like with jokes. If you can't take a joke, don't give jokes.
Nope.
If you can't take a roast, don't roast me.
Yep.
If I roast you back and I'm better at it than you, and you start crying, oh, no, I'm canceled. I can't. No. Bullshit. That's what you get, you little twat. You go out there and you want to, I said it because you know what? You want to go out there and act like that, and I guarantee you, there's been interviews, there's been posts made where he was still poking fun of Izzy all these years later. Exactly. So you want to sit here and be a little snot-nosed, boneheaded, knucklehead, badass, but that's what, roosters done come home to roost? Or chickens, or the hens come home to
Chickens come home to roost?
Chickens come home to roost, or is it, but they went because it's roosters. So is it roosters come home to roost, or hens? Either way, your daddy got knocked out by Izzy. And Izzy wanted to let you know, hey, little guy, remember this? There you go. And guess what? Just like in John Wick 4, probably the best John Wick of all time. Oh, Dum Dum over here, he ain't never seen it because it's not a theatrical masterpiece.
I've seen the first three. I gotta catch the fourth one now. I'm invested.
You do. But like in that one, we've seen another in Kill Bill.
Yep.
Whoever want to get your revenge, I'll be waiting for you. Now with the age gap, maybe it's a little too long in the tooth, but how awesome would it be if this kid, let's say from 18 to 21, gets in MMA and he wants to take on Izzy? It's right there. The promotion is right there. This is the anime superhero / comic book story if I've ever heard one. Hollywood wouldn't write no better.
You really can't. You really can't. And honestly,
go ahead.
Honestly, so now the tile's been set. Everything's been done. Everything now we go forward. looking at these guys, let's start off with Izzy Adesanya, the new 185 middleweight.
Champion has a name.
Champion has a name, and he's Stylebender. Now, Stylebender, here's the problem. You just took out your boogeyman. We just had this amazing sequence of fights with you and your rival.
Your Boba Yaga.
And now we look at the rest of the division. I'm pretty sure out of all the top 8 ranked middleweights, there's only one man in the top 8 who Izzy Adesanya has not already faced, and already faced twice for title shots.
He is circling back around with a lot of fighters. He is circling back around with a lot of the fighters within the division because, again, he has such a dominant run. You look at the fact that Robert Whittaker's trying to call him out, Marvin Vettori, Jared Cannonier, Paulo Costa. From there, yeah, Derek Brunson's on the list, but then you're looking at guys like Sean Strickland, Jack Hansen, Kevin Gastelum just got a big win. Again, he's got another victory over him. But I'm going to let you get to it because I believe you were alluding to it. There is somebody who's currently ranked number 6, probably going to go up. But there is somebody out there that could be some fresh meat from the Nigerian. Well, he's not the Nigerian Nightmare, but he is from Nigeria, which plays into this.
And he's a night terror for anyone who stands across from him, all right? I'm going to say, now, the man's initials going forward, because we'll probably talk about him a lot more if this fight, especially if these two get booked. It's DDP. Darius Duplessis.
Bang! Sorry, WCW days. It's just a bad habit, okay?
It's a bad habit. DDP. I got you. DDP, man. Anybody who hasn't seen DDP, Duplessis, he's, he hasn't had a huge, crazy fight yet. His biggest win was probably his most recent one, where he basically ended the UFC career of Darren Till. He's a great grappler. He hails from South Africa, and this is where I'm gonna let you take over, because he's starting to get a little problematic territory. This man has been saying.
So Duplessis is 19-2. He's on a 7-fight win streak, 8 wins by knockout, 10 by submissions. Like you said, he's from South Africa. If you go north, you run into Nigeria. And Duplessis in the last outing did start mentioning how, well, you got these so-called African champions, Ngannou, Usman, Adesanya. None of them live in Africa. And he started speaking out the side of his ass when he started saying, well, have they even gone back to Africa? There's videos clearly showing Izzy doing promo work for the UFC in Nigeria. He even told a story how he had to run into one of the local thugs who ran up on the set. There's even videos of Usman being back in his hometown when he was there watching their own style of wrestling. Nagano went there and they had a damn near parade for him. Like this was the second coming of when Muhammad Ali went there. But yeah, have they ever gone to Africa? I'm from South Africa. Okay, so you're from South Africa. Good for you. You're also from that part of Africa that you guys, for a long period of time, kept a certain distance from people that look like the 3 you just named. But you want to sit here and say you're the real African champion. Hey, no disrespect to you or anything like that, but don't be talking out the side of your ass like these guys didn't move from a horrible environment that they were all in. If you look at, for instance, Ngannou's story, from Cameroon to Paris to the USA, how the hell do you look at that and say, why didn't you stay in Cameroon? Mother, guy was about to die.
Yeah.
You look at what's going on in Nigeria at the time with Usman and with Adesanya. Oh, well, isn't he going back to New Zealand? You piece of work right there. I'll tell you, I'm totally for the promotion aspect of it, but you're also talking in a sense of, that's like saying, if this was, let's say, 2 minorities, right? You know what? No. When we talk about fighters in boxing, mostly, when they talk about someone who's from Mexico and not from Mexico, oh, you're not really Mexican, David Benavidez, you're not really Mexican, you were born in America, you live in Arizona, it's like, dude, what are you talking about?
Right.
You're mad at me because either myself or my family put us in a better situation? That makes me less of this? Hell no. Hell no. But he chooses to go that route. I'll tell you what, it kind of works. Not only are we talking about it, but it might get him a title shot. It kind of works. But I don't agree with it. He is the only guy in the top 7 that Izzy hasn't fought.
I think top 8,
He does have a legit claim. We're on 7-fight win streak to get a title shot. This is a great promotional work. UFC's trying to go to UFC Africa.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yes, it's worked. I mean, it's worked well enough to where Izzy Adesanya technically wouldn't mention him by name, but he was referring to him in the post-fight interview. And also, just so y'all know, Duplessis is claiming African heritage while also, and no doubt from it, but he's about his, me and him share the same pigmentation. All right, that's the entire background story of this man. That's probably what will be next, especially if the UFC can book that event in South Africa. I can't think of after this crazy fight with Pereira, I can't think of anything else that's interesting enough to where, like you said, it has a storyline. As problematic as it is a storyline that's getting heat. So we'll see where that goes. Hopefully, we'll hear something soon. But Izzy Adesanya, the champ, has deserved a little time off.
Very quickly, because you pointed out, there are people from Africa who do look like you.
Yes, there is.
African rugby team. Half of them
Most
look like you.
Exactly.
Some look like me, a little bit slimmer, but that's okay. I enjoy McDonald's, okay? But you do have that. So I don't want people to think that we're just saying, oh, you can't be African and look a certain way.
No, it's just you can't.
He is using that as a way of saying, hey, I'm the real African fighter here. Okay, dude.
No, people look like me, but it's just, it's one thing. You just can't start, throwing shots at people because, you say you're African, but
you know, about to get somebody in the comment section go, well, we ain't these guys in Africa look like this, like dumb. We know. So
shut up. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. But next, real quick, Alex Pereira, scary man. He's still a ginormous threat to whatever division he goes in. Mm-hmm. After the post-fight interviews, Dana White came out and said that he hasn't heard a word from Pereira about it, but he strongly predicts that the man will probably not continue to cut the weight down to middleweight. He possibly, with as big as he is, will probably want to stay and go up to light heavyweight, where his coach, Glover, lost the belt earlier this year to Jamal Hill, and that could possibly be a great storyline for him to avenge his coach, get the belt from Jamal Hill. There's a bunch of crazy matchups up there. I mean, what are your thoughts with Pereira?
Obviously, Alex Pereira afterwards did mention that, hey, there are already plans in place, so we got to see what's going on. So, yeah, the idea was I'm only fighting 185 to get to this guy. Mm-hmm. Once I face him and beat him, that was his mindset, I'm moving on because it's a lot for me to cut. So he did that. Now he's moving on. And, yeah, I could definitely see him going up to 205. Now, the storyline, obviously, with him and Jamal Hill, I don't know if he'll go right into a title shot because he did get knocked out losing his belt. But he goes up there, wins a fight. I mean, you got to figure, with that division being wide open, one impressive victory might get him a title shot. Two at the very least. But Pereira at 205 makes a lot of sense. And then think about this. So, Jan Blachowicz did mention that he'll cut down to 185 to fight Izzy. He said, hey, you try to come up to my division, and respect to Jan for that. You came up to my division to try to challenge for the belt, unsuccessful. I'll come down to yours to try to challenge you for yours. If he does it for real, that remains to be seen. But think about this. If Pereira becomes light heavyweight champion, if Izzy's still middleweight champion, Izzy can try to redeem a loss to Pereira, tie it up 2-2, and also his lone loss, not his lone, but his loss at light heavyweight. Mm-hmm. Champ status, the big rivalry, the trilogy coming to a conclusion. Again, it's a storyline within itself. But Pereira, I definitely feel 205 is not only his immediate future, he might be looking at heavyweight one day. I think that dude, 6'4", 6'5", almost 6'6". And he is.
He's a thick old boy, man.
Thick old boy. So you got to think he probably is thinking. To me, he has a legit chance to possibly one day be a 3-division champion.
It's possible for sure. His man's body is
not a John Jones still got the title.
Not a John Jones.
John Jones got the title.
I mean, Pereira's so unique, just with like pause. But his body is so weird. It's interesting. He's got the same thing Izzy's got, where they're tall, longer, lengthier guys. But Pereira, it's just different. He's got the strength behind him, and you look at him, and even though he's kind of skinny, you're like, that guy looks like he is strong as hell. All right, and so that opens the doors for him to be. Granted, he needs to work on some ground game. He did not see the level of competition when it comes to grappling and jiu-jitsu when he was fighting with Izzy in these 2 fights. But if he goes up to 205, or if he even stays at middleweight and faces the guys like Robert Whittaker or Vittori, he's gonna see that. And if he's not working on that, at least takedown defense, grappling defense, he's gonna get a rude awakening when he first faces a guy like that. So
every fight starts off on your feet.
It does.
I ain't gotta worry about that if I knock you the hell out.
Exactly.
But I feel he does have to work. But if he's moving up, those light heavyweight and heavyweight doesn't have a lot of big grapplers and wrestlers there. Guys who pull it, but I don't know, man. It's not like you got to work on it, but I don't think you got to work on it that much. But nonetheless.
But I will say, last thing I'll say about it, a perfect center. I like what you said. Maybe he hasn't if he moves up the light heavyweight. He hasn't maybe done enough to earn a straight shot title shot against Jamal Hill. But you know who could be that one fight he needs to get that done is the man who he was a champion and he lost the belt, but he didn't lose a fight to lose the belt. He lost shoulder ligaments. He lost shoulder ligaments in that that made him so he had to forego the belt. And he's just as scary and absolute wild man himself in one Yuri Prochazka.
That would be an interesting matchup. He's another big boy.
Exactly, and I'm not going to take credit. I saw this on a tweet. Somebody said, "Forget the trilogy. Give me Pereira versus Prochazka." And I the second I saw it, I was obsessed. I was like, "Oh my goodness, that would do numbers." I don't care if there's no belt on the line. That's your main event for whatever card you're on.
Next time, just say that you came up with it so we sound smarter than we really are.
Man, I can't. Integrity. I gotta have some integrity.
We're on here right now. You don't want people to know that. That don't make you.
I got you.
Yeah. We want to sound like we know it, but that would be a tremendous matchup. Seriously, that would be an awesome battle between two very unique styles. Physique-wise, they kind of match up. It's not going to be that big of a difference because Yari is another big one. Alex is a big figure at 205. Those two going at it with their striking styles, their power, and Pereira kind of showed that he had the cardio to go 5 rounds against Izzy the first time. Against Yari, we've seen him go to war against Glover in 5 rounds. That would be a tremendous matchup. I'll be very forward to looking into that. I'll tell you what else I'm looking forward to.
What's that?
What's going to happen after the co-main event fallout? Let's get into that.
Let's get into it real quick. Mr. 305 himself, Jorge Gamebred Masvidal, came home for the first time in the UFC for the first time in 20 years in Miami, and for Jorge Masvidal, the last time. The man comes in there against Gilbert Burns, a 3-round kind of beat down on Gamebred, not gonna lie, and in the end, Gilbert Burns gets the unanimous decision victory, and Gamebred, for the last time, takes the gloves off and lays him in the octagon as he ends his career. I mean, a historic run for Gamebred. I loved what he said in the post-fight interview where he said, you know, I came from nothing. I earned everything. You know, I came into this broke, and now I'm set for life. The man, no matter what you got to say about him, despite the fact he's never held a championship title, it doesn't matter. He had a historic career, and I know one day we're going to see him in the Hall of Fame. No,
for sure. He had a great run. He capitalized on it as you're supposed to do. And he's got a tremendous story behind him. He fought the who's who. This is a guy you could definitely say, win, lose, or draw. He didn't back down from anybody. You know, he's got some things going on outside the UFC that's going to keep him relevant. He's got a good personality to where you can definitely say, does he maybe go on TV shows? Does he maybe do movie appearances and whatnot? He's got a great look to him. And again, he's got the type of popularity like a Diaz or even a McGregor, to where even in a loss, his fans still love and respect him because, again, like you said, he came from nothing. And look, and I did it the authentic way, like you guys love. I didn't come in here and create a character that's not me. I didn't come out here and try to bash the entire country or bash people because I was about to be cut by the UFC, and I'm over here trying to, and then I'm acting like I'm a tough guy, but I'm hiring models to be in my videos for me to make it look like I got women around me, but I really don't.
We're talking specifics.
I'm not sitting here talking about how I'll beat you up when I see you in the street. Then when I do see you in the street and get hit, I'm calling the police on you because I'm scared and you're triggering my feelings. He ain't do all that.
Let him know.
Said, you want to see me in the streets?
Let him know.
I'm here in the streets. So he's come about it in the most authentic way possible. And he said this before. People say, oh, people ain't just like Kobe because he's a Trump supporter. Guess what? So is Justin Gaethje. So is Jorge Masvidal. You see either one of them getting the hate that he gets. No. Why? Because they're authentic about who they are. They don't choose to go out there and bash people for no particular reason because I was about to get cut from the UFC because I'm a boring fighter. No. They are electric in the cage, win, lose, or draw. And they're authentic to who they are as a person and what they believe in. Now, Jorge says some things in tweets and other things, bash him, but it comes off more so authentic as opposed to, dude, I honestly think you just wrote that down. I don't even know if you really believe in all that stuff, but whatever. Nonetheless, here's what's interesting. Back in 2017, he was on 2-fight losing streak against Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson. And you're like, man, what's going on with Jorge here? Kind of up in the air. He takes a break off. He goes on this TV show in South America where you're isolated from everything. While he was there, he had this turnaround of, hey, I got to make this happen now. I got to come out here and make a change if I want to come back and suppress for my family and be the fighter that I can be. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. So in 2019, he comes back, knocks out Darren Till, has the flying knee knockout of Ben Askren. Woo! Got the tattoo on right here on the shoulder. Then he beats Nate Diaz, Madison Square Garden, for the BMF, baddest motherfucking title. Since then, man, it has been a 4-fight losing streak. One of them, I give him an annex on because he took the fight against Kamaru Usman on 6 days' notice.
Yep.
Made weight miraculously, and he loses. I give him that. But to get knocked out, to get dominated by Kobe, to get pretty much dominated by Gilbert Burns in the 305, you know, it's one of those where you say, all right, you didn't win a UFC title. You're still one of the best. You're probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame one day. But if we're also looking at it just from a fighter's perspective, yeah, dude, you made a big name for yourself, but when the lights was brightest, the stage was big, and you had an opportunity, you didn't pull the trigger.
Hey, man, but I'll say this on that note. Gamebred Masvidal, for most of his career, was seen as a journeyman, somebody who just bounced around, who won enough just to stay on the roster, but not enough to actually mean anything or do anything. And then, like you said, he goes on the TV show, he has some coming to God or whatever it was, and then he comes back and he has the run that he did. And even though a title wasn't involved in it, I mean, going from Darren Till, I mean, Jorge Masvidal was pretty much the reason Darren Till didn't live up to the expectations. All right, he was the first, he was the domino that first fell that made it so Darren Till ended up now out of the UFC, nowhere near a title. I mean,
I think Tyron Woodley was the first one.
Tyron Woodley, I mean, but that Gamebred Masvidal, but that's Tyron Woodley.
He had an entire fight where he didn't throw a punch.
Okay, I get
he didn't throw a strike.
Yes,
he had an entire round.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes and you're going to get one punch off? I think Tyron Woodley was the first domino. The major domino
was Masvidal. I like that. Yes, but then again, so then look at it as a journeyman, as somebody who nobody gives a single ounce of credit to. He does what he did to Darren Till. He has the fastest knockout in any fight the UFC has ever had. In what I can never get this right. Is it 4 seconds it took him to put his knee bone right there on Ben Askren's forehead?
The way he set that knee up and the way he talks about it in the video we see is reminiscent of when Conor knocked out Aldo, but to me it's more fantastic because he knew, and like he said on the Joe Rogan podcast, he knew, hey, when every time I see this dude off camera, he freezes up in the moment. I got something for him. He just knew if I step off to the side and I rush him, give him a different angle, he's gonna revert back to his natural wrestling days and bend down right into it. Now here's the thing: do we count when Askren was completely knocked out? Because it might be 3 seconds, or do we, like you said, when you just go out on the ground? Because you're right, 4 or 5 seconds is good enough. But if we want to talk about just when he's out, 3 seconds might be it. But nonetheless, here's what's crazy: he may be retired. But I think if you called, and if somebody has a good outing, maybe old Jorge versus Conor might be up there. Now, look, there was a time where it seemed like that was too crazy. Jorge's too big for him. He's too strong, kind of like he was for Nate Diaz. I don't know. We'll see how your boy looks when he takes on Michael Chandler, America. But it's going to be one of those where you say, all right, let's see. But nonetheless, Gilbert Burns won. Impressive fashion. Looking like a Brazilian Bruno Mars, by the way. Respect. Yeah,
you get the effort. It's nice.
What does he do now? Because Kobe's going to get the title shot. Gilbert already told Dana White, I will be the backup, just like Kobe was for the last fight with Edwards and Usman. I will be the backup in case anything goes on. Bilal Muhammad is still out there. Do you put those two? Or do you just say, yep, you're there, and then you get does Burns get the winner of Covington and Edwards? Bilal, what do you do with him? It's some interesting stuff going on in the 170-pound division.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but the thing is if Dana White would just get his head out of his rear end and realize this Kobe thing doesn't make any sense, then he would realize, hey, here's a cool way of setting it up. Here's a wonderful way of setting this up. How about Kobe? Why don't you face Kamaru Usman to go and see who goes on? How about we say, Kobe, why don't you face Bilal Muhammad and Kamaru Usman, you face Gilbert Burns again, just so you guys can run it back again. You guys have history. And then the winner of those, or one of them, the winners gets to face a title shot. It's just, the Kobe thing is just shoehorned in there. It's so aggressive. It's so absurd. It just doesn't make any sense. It's infuriating everybody on the roster, all the fans. Like, I'm going to keep coming back to it. I don't like... How's Kamaru Usman finishes? He lost twice. He's the gatekeeper now of that division.
No, he's not a gatekeeper.
He's the gatekeeper of the division.
You know how you're a gatekeeper? Well, you're not losing to the champion. You're not a gatekeeper if you lose to the champion. He had a dominant run. Let's not act like, 2 losses to the guy who is the champion makes him a gatekeeper. Don't you disrespect the Nigerian acting like that.
He's a gatekeeper the same way Max Holloway is. That's like they're so.
How is Max Holloway the gatekeeper when nobody outside of Alexander Volkanovski has beat him at 145? How's he the gatekeeper? You're not the gatekeeper. You're a gatekeeper when you're 8th or 9th, and you're like, okay, is this guy really legit contender in this division? Well, let's put him against this guy and really see. No, Max Holloway and Usman are the final level before you get to the big boss.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I mean when I say, maybe I'm not using the term right, but that's what I mean when I say gatekeeper.
Really?
You are you are either the champion or you've been losing to the champion. You're right there with the champion. You're just not there. So you are the guy. You had your shots. You've had the chances. So now if anyone else wants a shot at the champ, you're the one that the UFC is going to say, you got to face Max. You want out.
Champion doesn't make you the gatekeeper. And look, we don't know what Usman's going to do. Does he move up to 185 and try his luck against somebody one time? Probably not, since is he the champion, or does he may retire? He's got really bad knees and he's getting up there in age. We don't know. But don't disrespect the Nigerian nightmare like that.
Absolutely,
I mean, he is
not.
honestly 1B or possibly 2A when it comes to greatest welterweight of all time. The first one being, St. Pierre, from Montreal. But he's not a gatekeeper. But he doesn't deserve to be in that title picture right now. Bilal Muhammad, if you were to tell me Bilal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns, winner gets the winner of Covington Edwards, I got you. You told me Bilal Muhammad should get it, and Covington should fight Burns, I get it. Whatever. But you know what's going to be bigger? In the UK. You put Covington out there. Why? Because what did he say?
Hey.
Last time the British didn't want to give America something, we took it. From a promotional standpoint, Covington is the guy you always want up there. From it wouldn't make sense on paper, record-wise, in recent events. No, it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, he's going to draw the most eyeballs.
There's so much hate on that, man.
It is. But guess what? All publicity is good publicity.
That's what I'm saying. That's
good or bad. So people are going to tune in. People are talking about it. And guess what? That's why Dana's like this. That's why I put it together. That's why I put it together. But nonetheless, it was some good stuff, though. I was happy it went down. Excited. Can't wait for the next one.
Would you say one of the more iconic cards we've seen in recent years?
It was a good card. I would say the co-main event was the biggest letdown. Just as far as the way the rest of the card went with the back and forth and excitement and the competitive nature of it. That's not to take anything away. Gilbert Burns is an absolute monster. You know, he did talk about Jorge Masvidal. Might have been grease in there, but
lotioned up.
Put the lotion in the basket. I don't know. Hey, man, I like Chancellor Williams too, but all right, cool.
All right,
but,
cool.
you know, again, that goes back to everybody cheats. I'm not saying Jorge Masvidal cheats. Everybody does some form of cheating. It's a matter of who gets caught.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's what Coach said. And on that note, I think we should wrap it up.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Main Event right here at Franchise Sports Media. Stay tuned, especially these next upcoming weeks. We've got boxing. We've got UFC events still coming up. We got so many things we're going to talk about. Please tune in, and we'll catch you guys next time. One last time, I'm Griffin Camp.
Kalani Lua.
Catch you next time, fight fans. Peace.